We're here live for the fourth episode of the Brutal Buddha Longevity Podcast. We're so grateful to have Mr. Andrew Cox, a longtime friend of ours from all different corners of the world, right? So Andrew comes from down under. We'll let him give you his background and experience and how we came to meet. But just by way of quick introduction, this podcast is all about longevity, life hacking, biohacking, health and wellness tips, and really just anything that we've gone through as men mostly in our lives and what we look forward to in the future, or some things we don't look forward to that we look to overcome. You know, this is the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything in between and on all ends of the spectrum. So without further ado, thank you so much, Andrew, for joining the podcast today. And we'll pass it to you for an introduction.
Hi, guys. Great to be here with you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share on your podcast, as you guys shared on my podcast, which is great. By way of introduction, my name is Andrew Cox. I'm one of the owners and directors of a company here in Hong Kong called Joint Dynamics. My background, oh mate, you said I'm from down under. How far back do you go? But I grew up in a country town. I was so fortunate to grow up in a country town in Australia called Tamworth. Sport was my life for a long period of time. My father was a very influential character in my life, whose sport was his life. As a result of that, guess what? My job revolves around movement. So I'm one of the owners here at Joint Dynamics, which is a gym with physical therapy, massage therapy, psychology, nutrition. We try to blend all of those disciplines and put the client at the center of that to give them what is best for them, that meets their goals, desires, and needs. And I would say how we would differ in the marketplace, apart from having all those disciplines and that client-centric model with putting the client in the middle of that, is that most of the people that are just out there in the gym are beyond the age of, I would say, 38, in between that 38 to 65 age bracket. So when you think of commercial gym marketing, all the people that look at that marketing of that ripped dude and that ripped girl who potentially have starved themselves for that moment in time to get that photo, my clientele go, well, you know what? I'm super busy. I probably have a family. A lot of them are higher level C executives in banks, accounting, because we're in a very financial area in Hong Kong. I don't have the time for that. But what I do have the time for is I want to maintain enough energy as I age, so I can not only contribute to my work, which is a big part of my life, as is your guys. You guys run a company, I run a company. That's us as well. So this is why this topic's so great. But also I want to have enough energy after work, let's say my career, to meaningfully connect with my family, my partners, my friends, my pets, my sports, my hobbies. Because work, especially in Hong Kong, and Ro, you're in New York, work can dominate your life to a point where I have nothing left at the end of the day. And if I could encapsulate people that come to Joint Dynamics, and it seems to be the client that I work best with, because it's just been the way that my individual practice, because I still actively see clients along with running the business here at Joint Dynamics and growing the business. But most people come with it's the obligatory. Why do you want to come and train in a gym, being surrounded by psychologists and physical therapists, massage therapy? Most of them just say, and if I said to you guys, you'd say, well, I want to lose weight and put on muscle. And then after some time, once you build rapport and trust, then those people will say, and to be honest, mate, I'm just tired of feeling tired. I go home from work and I really want to engage with my wife, husband, partner, friends, but I'm so caught up and I can't switch off from work and I don't have the energy. So I end up having a glass of wine to, switch off from the day, which then means I don't sleep so well. And then the next day, guess what? I need to start the day. I need caffeine. So, and I just get caught in this cycle. Can you please help me get out of this cycle so I can regain almost like this internal locus of control of my life, driven by the energy that I can bring to my day? And if I take that one step further, there's this whole time management. That's super important, yes, and it's very easy to quantify time, isn't it? Chronological, I can get this much work done in this amount of time. But now also there's that great conversation around energy management. If I bring better energy to my day, then I should be able to get more done in less time. And then extrapolating on this topic of you guys and this fantastic podcast on longevity, such a meaningful topic. If I have more energy, then that means my health is increased. And so now the subject, and I'm sure the first three have already said it, to increase your lifespan, go after increasing your health span. Mm-hmm. You know, who doesn't want to die young at an old age? I do, you know what I mean? I don't want 5 years of insidious, slow aging and chronic pain and death. I want to get to 98 and die in a month, to be honest. I don't want to get to 80 and die over 8 years, which is often the case. So that's that's me, Andrew Cox. Good day, guys. Joint Dynamics my business. I work with people every day centered around movement, connection, and nutrition. You know, that's what I do on a nutshell. I do that with individuals still, and I do that with a platform that is Joint Dynamics, where we have over 70 staff here in Central and Quarry Bay and upstairs here with our Women's Health Centre. And actually, we've just partnered with a company we've just opened in London, which is great for us as well.
Amazing. Well, that's one killer intro. And I would just say, you know, your energy is by far beyond that of, you know, the majority of people that I see, you know, especially for someone who's been going after, you know, for a very long time, very active, family oriented, et cetera. So I think you find the right balance of energy and family and work and focus and passion. And you do so much for the community, you know, not just in this part of the world, but, you know, globally, especially during the last 3 years during COVID, when, you know, most things were online. So just by way of quick introduction, I'm Evan. This is Ro, my co-founder on the Zoom as well. We built Brutal Buddha right at the onset of COVID, actually, so about 2.5 years ago or so. And we've been lucky enough to engage with Andrew on a number of occasions, but we'll get into our business a little bit later, you know, as we wrap up the call for people who want to find us, the podcast. But for the time being, would love to just dig a little bit deeper on those points. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is that concept of living a very long life, right? Like if you could live healthy, you know, to 150, 200, like what's stopping us, right? And, you know, there's all this talk about biohacking and life hacking and, you know, how you can improve your life on a regular day-to-day basis. But it's so difficult for us as people to say, okay, no Netflix, no sugar, you know, like have to be a robot, right? Like, you know, don't have that glass of wine at the end of the day, right? Like spend 3 hours with your kids, you know, on a concentrated basis. Like it's so rigid and there's so much noise out there, right? Like, and part of this podcast is not to contribute to the noise, it's to really question it. It's to really understand and get feedback from, you know, the people we're podcasting, right? These micro celebrities, in your case, macro celebrity. But we want to really understand, like, you know, how do you envision your future self when it comes to, you know, getting to 98 and become, you know, basically playing tennis all the way up to that age and engaging with your family and feeling good. Like, what are the steps that you're taking on a regular basis? Maybe you can just touch on your morning routine, for example, or what you do in the middle of the day to clear your head of all the noise, to take micro breaks through all the craziness and the chaos.
Firstly, I'd like to thank you for framing it that way, because there is so much noise. And the last thing that the three of us want to do is give out all this advice and then people take it and they're like, oh my goodness. So not only do I have to meditate, follow the WHO 75 minutes of vigorous exercise a day, I have to sleep 8 hours, but I just don't have enough time. And in the end, you perfectly described it as noise, it's another stressor on people. So we have to acknowledge that, you know, that my client base, they're busy people, and I'm potentially the people that are, who's not busy? Sorry, I'm not even going to say that crap. Who's not busy in the world we live in today? There's so much stuff going on. So our role, my role, and thank you for giving me this platform to share what I think about and my experience and what I do every day, essentially, is to add valuable advice that's not far beyond what you're currently doing. That you don't need drastic upheaval in your life to increase your health span and just feel better than what you do tomorrow, you know, today, tomorrow, you know what I mean? You want to increase the amount of energy that you bring to your day. And you said something to me previously, just like 5 minutes ago, when you said, I bring a lot of energy. Passion's easy because I love what I do. And I just feel so fortunate to be able to surround myself with great people such as yourselves and be able to collaborate with your company, which is a meaningful company with great vision. So I'm inspired by you guys, but I'm also very passionate about, I'm so fortunate to do what I do, to be honest. But the energy that I bring to my day, driven by my passion, my love of what I do, is no accident though. Like sometimes people just say to me, "Oh, Andrew, you're so lucky. You've got so much energy and enthusiasm." Maybe the enthusiasm is luck. I've just fallen into something that I love doing. But the energy that I bring to every day is not. Please make no mistakes. It is no mistake. It's not by accident. You know what I mean? Because I do have some rituals, and you've experienced them. We've had our cup of coffee with lion's mane tea. So I guess I could say, using my life as maybe quasi a direction. Not, please don't, but as mapping through. My life is pretty habitual in a great way. Like I have some rituals in my life that just don't change. For example, if I look to my left here, my snack is a box of vegetables. And okay, granted, I'm very lucky. I live in Hong Kong and we have domestic help. But when we didn't have domestic help, I just make this box of vegetables the night before, and then in the morning I would grab them because I start work at 7, and I like to get up at 5:45 and do the stuff. But making my food that I bring to work, I don't have enough time. But every day I have a mixture of carrots, cucumber, capsicum, beetroot, celery, spinach. I just choose 3. So there's a list of vegetables, high fibrous vegetables. Remember, fiber. First take home. Get more fiber in your diet, and you'll live longer. No doubt. No doubt. It's you know what I mean? Doesn't have to be from psyllium husk, even though that seems to be okay if we look at the research. But getting it from vegetables is a phenomenal way to increase your gut health, which will increase your energy that you bring to your day, which will make you live longer. So I have vegetables every day, raw sometimes. And if you're not raw, yes, we extract more nutrients out when we cook foods, but still, I just do a box of raw vegetables. I do eat cooked vegetables. And I'll do that every day. So I'll have 3 of those vegetables. I'll have either almonds that we soak and activate. We have a dehydrator at home. You don't have to do that, but it is slightly better practice. So I'll have either pistachios, macadamias are amazing. One group of of nuts, not a massive handful, but they go in there. And then every day I'll also have apple cider vinegar and olive oil. I do that to pour all over my vegetables, but apple cider vinegar, I don't think it's been classified as a superfood yet. And thank goodness, because the price would go up, because it's such a great marketing word, isn't it?
That's right.
Superfood. But it's one of those foods that goes with olive oil very well, and it goes on my vegetables very well. But what are the benefits of apple cider vinegar? Many, but what we can say related to this topic, and I'm sure it's been said in the first 3, unstable blood sugar and insulin levels will effectively reduce your lifespan.
Yeah.
Guess what apple cider vinegar does? It helps you it helps you regulate insulin better, among other things. But if that's the only takeaway as why I should include apple cider vinegar into my life regularly, that's enough.
Right.
And it tastes pretty great. Or I've got mates and clients that take a shot in the morning, get up in the morning,
gummies.
a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, squeeze some lemon, and apparently it's better than coffee, because if you have it, you take it and you're like, it's like an electric bolt of energy that comes through you. Not only does it seem to make you move like I just did, which I'm not saying that's a good thing, but it also helps your body deal with erratic blood sugar, and that's not a good thing for us as we age. I do that. I have a ritual where I come into work every day, and we share the coffee. So caffeine is so well researched, but here's the caveat: if you're not getting enough sleep and you're chronically stressed, having caffeine and maybe excessive caffeine, it's like a high interest loan. There's a big dude standing behind you with a baseball bat saying, okay, keep drinking coffee as long as you're chronically stressed and not getting enough sleep. I'll give you 10, but you're going to pay me back 50. So, but if you are adequately rested, 7 to 9 hours, you've heard it before, people, the amount of people that can function on 5 hours per sleep rounded to a whole number is that many, 0. So don't kid yourself. But let's say 7 to 9. If you're getting that 7 to 9 and you're not overly stressed, we're all stressed. We're not overly stressed, and caffeine is phenomenal. It's ergogenic. You'll run faster, lift heavier, decreases pain. There's cognitive benefits to coffee. With that in mind, as in the backstory of why does Andrew have coffee every day when he comes to work? I have coffee, but I'm also fascinated I don't really care so much about the taste of coffee. I'm sure it tastes okay, but I use it as a carrier. So, sorry, I should go back. I drink a lot of water in the morning before I start. Then I'll have my breakfast. And then I'll come to work and I'll have my coffee, but I load it, quote unquote, load it with lion's mane mushroom and it's a ketogenic collagen protein sort of thing that I put in there as well. And also a little bit of fat, which I use either ghee or cacao butter. So I'll do that. And that's, I actually, real or imagined, mate, I don't know, but the research emerging more and more on lion's mane and the benefit to our brain and nervous system. For mine, it's worthwhile exploring. And an N of one being myself, N of two, Evan, we shared one. N of one,
we did.
I'm bringing Evan in. We both felt pretty good. So I do that every day as a little ritual. And here it is. Here you can see. You can see. Look at this. Look at that. There's the mark of how big it was. But what I'll do, I got a big cup, so I will drink this, fill it up, drink it, fill it up, drink it, fill it up, and that'll last me. I've been at work now for 4 hours, so that'll last me 5 hours. But I get a lot of hydration with it as well. So that's another little practice among all the movement things that I do to look after myself that I love doing. But the principles that I would share is you just find simple little practices that with time almost seem innocuous. You know, it's almost innocuous that I just bring this box of vegetables every bloody day to work. And I have apple cider vinegar on it every day. But it's consistency, as with, you know, when people come to me and say, hey, Andrew, want to lose weight and perform better at my sport. And I'm like, okay, cool. The number one thing that's going to drive results, do you know what it is? They're like, yeah, I need to lift heavy. I'm like, yes, that's important, but it's turning up. Yeah. So we can almost answer that question straight away. Well, Andrew, what is the best exercise? The answer is the one that you will do most often. Yes, we can optimize. 100% we can optimize. Yes. Do you need to lift heavy things? Yes. Do you need to at time run like you're trying to get away from a tiger, as long as your joints and your body's feeling okay to do that? 100% that will enhance your health, your lifespan, your health span. But the number one thing, guys, please don't be confused. It's just be consistent.
Consistency.
Turn up and do some stuff.
Over time. Wow, I can just say I'm itching to get out there and make some vegetables for my daily routine and chop them up. And, you know, I'm ordering lion's mane and cacao butter and some of these things. Even you'll have to even tell me what kind of ghee you're getting, because I want to get these things, you know, from iHerb. But, you know, from my perspective, the thing that I took the most out of that overview of your, you know, daily tips and habits is really the consistency piece that you mentioned at the end, right? Like you can build any routine, you can try any fad, you can do anything. And I won't call what you shared as a diet. I would say it's just part of your food intake, right? Your food and liquid intake, right? Because, you know, when we say diet, it has this perception that, oh, I can do it for 3 months or 6 months, then I can go back to my chocolate mousse and I can have, you know, a nice, you know, huge Italian lunch every day. But the reality is those things are nice and it's all about balance. You can have it once in a while, maybe once every couple of weeks. But if you really want to think about the long run, right, it's what you're doing on the day-to-day basis. So yeah, that's really interesting. Ro, did you take anything away from that was really cool that you heard?
Yeah, I mean, I took away similar things to you, Evan, but I would just be curious, Andrew, like, have you tried, obviously, you know, you're a very fit guy. You've got, you know, high energy levels. You coach people daily, you know, to achieve their goals and, you know, harness their routines and lifestyles in a way that works for them. But I would just be curious, like, how do you feel, or have you even experienced it where you go through a day or two, or maybe even a week where you don't do those things you just mentioned to Evan and I? And if so, like, how do you feel when that happens? So for example, when was the last time you didn't have the lion's mane coffee, you know, consistently, or, you know, do the lots of water intake in the morning or get enough sleep? Like, I would be curious, like, what a cheat day for Andrew Cox looks like. And if that really like throws you off and how you feel when you're not in that routine, like you said, because consistency is so important. Because I find myself, and I don't have I would say the same routine that you just described, but I have my own routine that I follow. But I find that when I get out of the routine, I'm really struggling. And so I'd be curious, like, Andrew, if you just have it down to a science where you do all those things every day, or if you get out of your daily habits ever so often, and how do you course correct?
Yeah, thank you. And you know what? I can answer that so accurately because recently my father's not so well. And potentially when I talk about my dad, it's because at the moment he's not in a great space physically with health. So I want the world to know that I've got a great dad. So thank you. But so I went home recently. It was 2 months ago. My father took a serious turn, and so I left. You know, I went home. And for the first 3 days, you know, I just hung out by his bed with my sisters and mum. And my routine, as you can imagine, wasn't the most important thing in my life. But what I noticed after those 3 days was just seriously how I felt. So, which wasn't good. I didn't feel the same energy. You know, I was focusing on my father and being there for my mother and sisters and all that sort of stuff. But physically, I just on the third day I went, you know, I don't think I'm actually in the best place to help as much as I want to. So then, and sometimes I was sleeping at the hospital where my father was. I was at compromised sleep. Anyway, so then I went back to a routine, and what that meant was I was sleeping at my sister's place. If I didn't sleep where my dad was, I was there for 3 weeks. And then what I did, so I would get up, I went grocery shopping and bought a stack of good food. Got up, had a great breakfast. I went to the hospital where my father was, spent about 6 hours with my father so my mum could go home because she has a life and a dog and a house. But then my mum had come back. I'd spend time with the three of them. And then every day, it was around 3 p.m., I would go spend 90 minutes at the gym, at 90 to maybe 105 minutes at the gym. And just that simple routine. And I would go, and you guys mentioned the morning movement medicine that I did during the lockdown. I would do what I call a morning movement medicine workout for about 45 minutes. I would just move and mobilize my joints. And, you know, the spine is so important in how we spread forces and hold ourselves and breathe and think. So I would mobilize my spine, my hips. And then after that, I would go out into the gym. And if I didn't lift heavy weights, which I love doing, I would go for a swim. And 2 days later, mate, my whole world changed. Like I was that far out of my routine as a result of life. You know, what did John Lennon say? Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. That's what life threw at me. But for 3 days, I didn't have any routine. I didn't eat. The first 2 days, I hardly ate. And then I realized that I want to be here for my family, and I want to spend as much time as I can with my dad. I can't stop being a dickhead. You need to look after yourself a little bit so you can be the bloke that you want to be for your family. It's almost like the lifesaver analogy. When you're saving someone, if you need to put your health in front of the person that you're trying to save, because if you drown, if you get hit by the rock there, then you won't be able to save either of you. So sometimes you need to make the decision to put your own health ahead of as a lifesaver, or, you know, when the mask drop down, put yours on before you put on the kid. I had to put my own oxygen mask on so I could be better prepared to deal with what was coming, being thrown at us day by day, with where my father was. And to be honest, it just reinforced how great it is to move. Like I couldn't believe how I felt. Like I would go back to the room where my father was. And then what we started doing, we started cooking dinner in my dad's room. So we had this door out the back. So then instead of, you know, not eating, then we would go and, you know, I'd buy lamb steaks and, oh, mate, we're having the best dinner. So my sister brought in the barbecue. Welcome to Australia, everyone. So then we'd have dinner as a family. We wouldn't separate. But the important thing for me was I was eating, and we're eating great foods, mainly animal protein and salads. But that routine, I was amazed at how good I felt immediately after that 90-minute first workout. But day 4, day 5, until I left, day 21, it changed how effective I felt as a son, a brother, and someone to help my father and my mum and sisters in that period of time. It was so drastic. So that's a great question, and it's so timely because I just literally went through that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's really interesting, Andrew. And because I find myself, it sounds like, when there's times of challenge, whether it's family challenge or relational or even work challenge, that's when people get thrown out of their routine. And I've found that myself. It's generally something that kind of throws you off. And it sounds like for you, it's a couple of things that are kind of your anchor. Like you mentioned, getting into the gym, for 90, 105 minutes, like that seemed to be a big turning point for you when you went through this 3-day stint of, not prioritizing your own health, over trying to help your dad and your family. So yeah, I just think it's really interesting. And I think a lot of our fans on the podcast and Brutal Buddha customers, and Evan and I can certainly relate to getting thrown out of your routine. So I think that's what some people work so hard to get out of, is to, they get thrown off of the routine. But I know that we've only got about 5 minutes left, Evan. So I don't know if you have any questions you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I mean, look, the biggest thing that I'm taking away is that grief, anxiety, and stress can easily throw you off. But when you create systems for yourself early in the week, right? You see all this noise and some good things on the internet now about meal prep on Sundays, right? Having everything easy to go, simplifying your life wherever possible, right? Making the gym accessible. If you're in a cold climate, make sure you're not having to travel through too much cold to get there, so that it's not as daunting. And just building these systems and routines and testing what works best for you. So you've been a huge inspiration to both of us, Andrew, and we're just so grateful to have you on our podcast. I feel like we could chat probably for hours and hours, spend a whole day doing an offsite retreat talking about these topics. But I think we're scratching the surface, right? It's important we talk about them. I've recently been to one of your live events where we talked about, men's health is in the way of mental health and stress reduction and, getting through some really tough times, right? And all three of us on this call have been through some really tough times, but, bright skies are always ahead. If you have a positive mindset and you continue to recognize that feelings, emotions, and thoughts will eventually pass, right? And when they are present, don't shun yourself. Don't be so down on yourself for feeling those things. It's okay to cry as a man. It's okay to emote. It's okay to feel angry. It's how we slow down and respond to those things versus react to them immediately, right? Instead of knee-jerk reactions. So to Rose's point, we're going to wrap up here. Andrew, where can the audience find you if they want to find you online, if they want to send you a message, if they swing through Oz or Hong Kong and want to come see you face to face, where can people find you?
A couple of places. If you just type in, my name is Andrew Cox, ladies and gentlemen, ANDREWCOX. If you type in Andrew Cox, Joint Dynamics, I'll come up. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, not that active, and on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, Andrew Cox, Joint Dynamics, you'll find me for sure. Just Google search. I have my own podcast. Jump on and listen to Ro and Evan on my podcast, the Joint Dynamics Intelligent Movement Series podcast. You can find me there. But I'm really, the world we live in, I'm not that hard to find. And I love connecting with you guys. What you guys did, starting your company, when you did, and then just the vision behind your company. I'm so stoked that I get the opportunity to collaborate with you guys. I remember when we first met, spoke about, I spoke Joint Dynamics is my baby. You want to protect your baby. So, when you put your company beside someone else's, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I feel very grateful to be able to have met you guys and be able to put, quote unquote, my company. I'm not the only owner of Joint Dynamics, there's 4 of us, but our company with your company, because it's a validation for the people that find Joint Dynamics to say, hey, they're with Brutal Buddha. And those guys are doing amazing things and they really care and they have passion and they're not just thinking about tomorrow, they're thinking about the world 20 years from now and what they want to create and who they want to affect. Imagine putting coming to me like that and I get to. How cool is that? No wonder I'm looking after myself so well.
Well, we can't end on a better note. So I would just say thank you for everyone who's joined today. Andrew, thanks so much for being here. Ro, tell them where we can find us real quick in 20 seconds. Instagram.
Yeah, you guys can find us on Instagram. It's just brutal BRUTAL_Buddha, BUDDHA. And then our website is just brutalbuddhagear.com. So you can contact us there.
Awesome. Thanks so much. This is our 4th episode of the Brutal Buddha Longevity Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, guys. See
Evan.
you later.
Hey, Brutal.